Broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's WilmsFront Snapshot news show, coming to you a day late on this Tuesday, the 21st of April 2026. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube channel. Hello to everyone watching. It is 8 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where last Thursday morning, I think a lot of Australians, particularly Victorians, feared the worst for our ongoing fuel supply when we saw the footage of the 13-hour Viva Energy Geelong oil refinery fire. This is one of two remaining oil refineries in Australia. The other one is owned and operated by Ampol in Queensland. So this Geelong refinery, it produces 120,000 barrels per day, supplies 50% of Victoria's fuel and 10% of fuel nationwide. The fire damaged two units that produce petrol and jet fuel. Now, the refinery continues to operate still, so it's at 60% for petrol, 80% for diesel, and 80% of jet fuel. Now, no workers or firefighters were injured, thankfully, and now foul play or sabotage was ruled out, although there was a lot of people on the day suspecting something nefarious, and it actually made it to the mainstream media that a Australian Defence Force military drone was flying around nearby. And also, at the same time, there was a refinery fire in Mexico. I think there was another one in India or Pakistan. So there was some conspiracy theories about a targeted refinery attack, but it also could be that, hey, oil and fuel is highly flammable. That's why they tell you not to light up your cigarette when you're filling up at the Bowser. A gas leak was deemed responsible. It's 70 years old, this refinery, and had been operating at maximum capacity for 6 weeks to keep up with the increased demand since the beginning of the US-Israel war on Iran, and even scheduled maintenance had been deferred. Now, immediately after the fire had been extinguished around midday, there were energy experts predicting an immediate price spike of 20 cents per litre in Victoria, and also another expert that said the reduced output could push Australia into level 3 of its national fuel security plan. I did notice on Thursday my local petrol station had queues throughout the entire day, but the fuel spike hasn't materialized. In fact, when I was driving past today, the petrol station, it was under $2 a litre for petrol and under $3 per litre for diesel. Now, obviously, that's minus 32 cents than it normally would be because of the cut to the fuel excise and the states giving back the extra GST revenue. So that's still, if you add that back in, that's still about 28 cents cheaper than the peak of unleaded petrol, which was about $2.60. Now, Anthony Albanese, he flew back from Malaysia, his final stopover on his Southeast Asian petrol diplomacy tour to assess the damage, along with Energy Minister Chris Bowen and the local member for Corio, who is the Defence Minister, and Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles, and said it wouldn't push us to level 3. Now, the Viva Energy CEO Scott Wyatt said that the company would supplement any production shortfalls on an ongoing basis just from our general import program, and that whatever the cost, the assessment costs the refinery will be absorbed into our refinery operations. We will not be passing that on to the community, which is very unusual for the CEO of a private company who obviously has to make a profit to say that they're not going to be passing on their increased costs to consumers. I certainly don't envy his position. I mean, it must be, at this time, being the CEO of one of Australia's 2 remaining oil refineries, that must be a high stress job, and I'd say he's definitely earning his salary. At the moment, you wouldn't get much sleep. And now Chris Bowen, at his weekly fuel reserve update, said that Australia has now 45 days of petrol. Remember, that includes petrol that's not just here but on its way to Australia. Though at least that's halfway to the 90-day minimum recommended by the International Energy Agency. 31 days of a diesel and 30 days of jet fuel. Bowen also announced the extension of the increase in allowable sulfur levels in petrol from 10 parts per million to 50 parts per million until the end of September. So that's a environmental climate fighting sulfur mandate. But when we're in a fuel emergency, I guess those sorts of virtue signaling environmental standards don't matter so much. And he also announced that fuel with higher sulfur content will be allowed into the broader fuel mix until the end of the year. So Anthony Albanese, he finished off his Asian petrol diplomacy tour, signing another non-binding joint statement on energy security with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, similar to the ones he signed with Singapore and Brunei. But it was interesting that later in the week, the Malaysian Prime Minister said that it's not true that Malaysia is selling oil to Australia. It is not planning to sell surplus fuel to Australia. So sort of mixed messages coming out from the Malaysian Prime Minister when he talks to a domestic audience. Albanese also announced that 100 million litres of additional diesel had been secured from Brunei and South Korea under the federal government's new financial underwriting of fuel shipments. So that accounts to about 26 hours worth. But hey, at least it keeps the food and transportation economy running for an extra day. Albanese also attended. It didn't waste any jet fuel on this. It was a virtual Strait of Hormuz Freedom of Navigation Leaders Summit, co-hosted by Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron. He has claimed there is no direct request from the US to join its Strait of Hormuz naval blockade, that this has been disputed by President Trump, who said that he's not happy with Australia because they were not there when we asked them to be. They were not there, having to do the amus, so I'm not happy. The Victorian government has also extended its free public transport to the end of May, and then it's going to be half price fares for the rest of the year. So that this is estimated to cost the Victorian state budget $432 million. But hey, what is an extra $432 million when we're $178 billion in debt? Anthony Albanese has announced that he will reconvene National Cabinet so that the states and territory leaders will have a dialogue so we can all move together as one nation. Did he say that word deliberately? We also had from global bank HBSC forecasting Australia will enter stagflation, which is high unemployment and high inflation for the next 2 to 3 quarters. And did anyone see Liam Bartlett's 7 News Spotlight episode on Australia's renewables truths on Sunday night? He visited the African nations, the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Zambia, to reveal that the Chinese government-owned mining companies are exploiting local men, women, and children to mine copper and cobalt to be used in our wind turbines, solar panels, and batteries. Australia has a cobalt in Broken Hill on the outskirts of New South Wales, but the owner of the local mine, Andrew Tong, said that he hasn't received a loan under Energy Minister Chris Bowen's capacity investment scheme. Bartlett also spoke with the first leader of the Australian Greens, Bob Brown, who expressed his opposition to a Chinese-owned copper mine in Tasmania, planning to bulldoze the old-growth Tarkine forest for its tailing dam. You might remember Liam Bartlett turned up to one of Chris Bowen's daily press conferences because Chris Bowen had refused a one-on-one interview with him. So that was included, the back and forth. And I remember Chris Bowen saying that he wouldn't speak with Spotlight because it's not a serious news program.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Last Friday, Ben Roberts-Smith, the Victoria Cross recipient, Australia's most decorated living soldier, a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, was granted bail after spending 10 days in Sydney's Silverwater prison after he was arrested at Sydney Airport on 5 war crimes murder charges. So he was granted bail by Judge Greg Grogan at Sydney's Downing Centre Local Court, which is the equivalent of the Melbourne Magistrates Court or the county court. I'm not sure. I've only ever attended and are familiar with the exact structure of Victoria's judiciary. So Judge Grogan found there are exceptional circumstances to granting him bail. Otherwise, Ben Roberts-Smith could spend weeks or months or years in custody. His bail conditions include $250,000 surety provided by his father, reporting to police 3 times a week, surrender of his passport, restricted travel within Australia, not contacting witnesses, and only using a single phone and computer that police can monitor. Now, he made a statement on Sunday to the media, and he began by saying that for the past 10 years, there has been he and his family have been subject to a campaign to convince Australians that I've acted improperly in my service in Afghanistan. He described his arrest at Sydney Airport in front of his daughters as a deliberate, sensational, and unnecessary spectacle. He spoke of the past 10. He spoke of the millions of Australians who've reached out to him publicly and privately to offer their support and well wishes, and described that as humbling. He vowed, I've never run from a fight in my life. I will never give up. I will always be here in the fight. And now what's interesting is that another Afghan soldier who has, confessed to killing an unarmed Afghan has been granted immunity for testifying against Ben Roberts-Smith, which really makes you quite suspicious, cynical, that wouldn't you want to prosecute all SAS Afghan soldiers who were accused of unlawful killing of unarmed Afghan civilians, but you're only going after the supposed biggest fish, the tallest poppy, Ben Roberts-Smith. That certainly sounds very selective, in that there is a campaign to primarily get his scalp. Obviously, we have Anzac Day in 4 days, and I'll take this opportunity to remind everybody that there is a public rally in support of Ben Roberts-Smith, organised by the National Workers Alliance, Sunday, April 26, outside Parliament House in Melbourne at 12 p.m. I'm sure there'll be a lot of veterans and other people who attending Anzac dawn services who will also express their support for Ben Roberts-Smith.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Last Tuesday, Liberal leader Angus Taylor unveiled a policy of tougher immigration standards. You can see his talking point there. Numbers are too high, standards are too low. Immigration is a key concern. So it was a written speech which he read from, delivered at the party's think tank, the Menzies Research Centre. It actually built on a policy that was drafted under previous leader Susan Ley that she was going to announce but delayed following the Bondi terrorist massacre. Taylor said that our immigration program must discriminate based on values. Not everyone wanting to migrate to Australia has noble intent. Not everyone wanting to migrate to Australia will be a net benefit to Australia. Indeed, many will be a net drain. He promised to rescreen the 1,300 Gazans who have been granted asylum under the Albanese government, and he said that the Bondi massacre showed the risk of declining immigration standards. And obviously, in part, it's motivated by wanting to win back voters who've switched to One Nation, but it's again making a This policy is also in part motivated in part by the fact that there have been a lot of people of Middle Eastern appearance and the Muslim faith attending these pro-Palestine rallies. And so the motivation is to stop more anti-Semitism in Australia. So Taylor's new immigration standard policy has 3 key pillars. I love how he called them pillars. So the first one was putting Australian values first. So this makes the Australian values statement a compulsory visa condition, and non-compliance could result in deportation. But things like a fair go, that's kind of subjective. And shutting the door to those who abuse the immigration system, which include deporting visa overstayers. I can't believe that hasn't happened already. There's 100,000 of them. Cracking down on visa abuse. Obviously, we've had visa hopping. Remember that the accused Bondi terrorist's father is Sajid Akram. It was originally on a student visa, then visa hopped. A safe country list for allowing automatic rejection of asylum claims. So this would include, say, countries like the United Kingdom. Though we do have a lot of de facto asylum seekers from the UK wanting to flee that anti-white police state. We have a lot of British expats in the Australian Patriot movement, such as Iron Duke, Gary Hume. It just comes to the top off the top of my head. And now also restoring temporary protection visas for refugees and asylum seekers. The third pillar is showing a red light to radicals via a new enhanced screening coordination centre, which includes social media screening to identify risks and extremists. This is what the Trump administration is doing to visa applicants or visa holders when they arrive in the United States. I'm not 100% comfortable with this, that a border official would go through my phone to check what I've been saying on social media, whether it's too critical. Remember, because we have, particularly at the moment, a lot of people who can conflate criticism of a government with criticism of that nation. You must not confuse, as the old saying goes, dissent with disloyalty or hatred. He also announced, Angus Taylor, mandatory English language requirements for those seeking permanent residency. Well, I already thought that was the case. Now, Taylor did not outline any proposed cut to Australia's net migration intake in this policy speech. That's set to be announced later. Now, Labor's attack began immediately after Taylor concluded his speech. And because Taylor couldn't say that this new immigration standards policy, it's basically designed to weed out, in particular, Middle Eastern Muslim radicals. Labor, who are so good at targeting the migrant vote, they got 10% swings in seats with high non-white migrant groups in those seats. So on their social media, they basically tried to, you could say, disingenuously fill in Taylor's blanks, saying that what he means is that he's targeting non-white migrant communities like you, is saying that you're a drain on Australia and not good for Australia.
Now, I can't tell you how unbelievably this is from Angus Taylor. I'm angry, really angry. So today, Angus Taylor went full One Nation. He said that too many self-serving migrants are draining our nation. Now, I can't tell you how unbelievably this is from Angus Taylor, the leader of the so-called Liberal Party, the party of Fraser, who embraced multiculturalism. I represent one of the most multicultural electorates in the country. 66% have one or more parent born overseas. 54% of them were born overseas as well. Is Angus Taylor saying that people of Bennelong are self-serving and draining our nation? This has to stop. We've even got Kelly Sloan, New South Wales Liberal leader, saying she agrees with Angus Taylor's comments.
Kelly, do you support your federal counterparts on this?
Yeah, I do.
Got the leader of the federal Liberal Party and the leader of the biggest state Liberal Party here in New South Wales saying that migrants are a drain on our society. All at the same time, when you've got Liberal state MPs, you've got Liberal mayors and Liberal councillors turning up to citizenship ceremonies, saying how great migration is and taking photos with new citizens. This doesn't cut it. Write to your local Liberals, because right now we need parties and politicians to bring people together, not tear us apart, not copy One Nation, and not blame migrants for every one of our policy problems.
The other thing that he said that has really puzzled me is this presumption that somehow if you come from a country that is a liberal democracy, you are a more worthy Australian.
Those who migrate from liberal democracies have a greater likelihood of subscribing to Australian values compared to those coming from other places.
This concept that somehow you are more worthy if you come from a liberal democracy is a view that I have not previously heard a senior Australian politician make. And there are moments in this that are jumps for votes. There are moments in this that are jumps for attention. But there is also a moment which we should never ignore when we make decisions about what sort of country we are. Australia is and should always be a country where we judge you by who you are, not where you're from.
And it went on and on. And the irony is of these Labor MPs and ministers like Tony Burke accusing Angus Taylor of playing the race card. The Labor are the biggest race card players there is. Their strategy has long been divide and conquer. You just mentioned the last federal election. When Jane Hume made that Chinese spies on Labor booths comment on Sunrise, Labor played those comments on WeChat, the Chinese social media app in Australia, and said, look at what the Liberals are saying about you Chinese Australians. And Penny Wong recorded a video and posted it there. And that's why we saw those 10% swings in those migrant seats. And even though the polling continues to say that the Australians want lower migration, they are worried about our fraying social cohesion, the elections are still about cost of living, but these migrant groups, the non-white migrant groups, if they feel that they're under attack, then that will be the biggest vote factor for them. And now the current Labor MPs and ministers, they had a fair whack, but it was probably a former Labor Prime Minister Paul Keating who when he was in office, aggressively pushed multiculturalism and introduced our foreign policy pivot to Asia, released a, shall we say, fruity statement full of the usual Keating diatribe. So it says that Angus Taylor announced a policy at odds with an immigrant nation, and that a Liberal government will adopt Trump ICE style policies to weed out and boot people out who fail to adhere to national values, and goes on to say that by adopting racism with its shabby appeal to differentiation and primal instincts, Angus Taylor marks himself as a political leader unworthy of leadership of a party that has governed Australia for the greater part of the last century. Racism is simply immoral and abhorrent, as in absurd. The blight of Pauline Hanson is that her dumb bigotry offers a fantasy, the fantasy that Australia in the modern age can return to a monoculture which fails to acknowledge or accept that a continent of our scale is able to turn its back on the multilateralism of neighbouring states, on the viability of their societies, and more than that, shun them while disparaging any contribution they may make or bring to us as migrants. And he goes on to say that how dispiriting for the rest of us, Angus Taylor's cowardice. He is not even attempting to stand and argue for principles that have been integral to Australia's strength, principles that his party has long championed. Now, Angus Taylor couldn't help but respond to Paul Keating's letter of bile. So he said, I always suspected that Paul Keating did not support Australian values, but now he's dropped any pretense to suggest that it is racist to put Australian values at the centre of our immigration policies. Shows just how out of touch he is with Australians, as is the Labor Party. It is the immigration policy we have to have. I like that pun there. Immigration numbers are too high, immigrant standards are too low. Must change both. It's time for Paul Keating and the Labor Party to put Australians and Australian values first. We should also remember that Paul Keating started the Great Australian Land giveaway with the Native Title Act after the Mabo High Court decision. That was his national address as Prime Minister to try to sell his Native Title Act. And it's interesting that Paul Keating is a simp for a country which is trying to establish a monoculture, People's Republic of China under Communist President for life Xi Jinping. He is trying to enforce through brutality a Han Chinese monoculture. So he doesn't say anything about that, but has a lot to say about Australia. Now, One Nation in the latest round of opinion polls has dipped. So in News Poll in the Australian, it is down by about 3 points. It's still ahead of the coalition on 24%. Labor is those 7 points ahead now on 31%. The coalition is on 21% steady. The Greens have gone up 1 to 13%. And the others, independents, on 11%. But over in Resolve, the Liberal National Party coalition is back ahead. So Labor still out ahead on 32%, Coalition 23%, One Nation 22%, the Greens 12%, Independents 6%, and others 5%. And you can see they have the Resolve Political Monitor and The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald. They have that shows the One Nation dip right at the end. And now, why is this so? Is this because of the Angus Taylor's new immigration policy? Pauline Hanson accused him of copying One Nation policies, but said, do I trust them to deliver like One Nation does? No, because the Liberal Party is full of moderates. They won't go far enough. Is it because of the scrutiny and controversy over its now former advisor, Sean Black, who Pauline Hanson ended up sacking after it's the renewed scrutiny after his conviction and imprisonment for raping his then wife in 2007. He spent 2 years in prison. Is it their support for Donald Trump and the war in Iran? It was revealed in the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age today that GetUp is making a comeback and is going to spend $600,000 to defeat the One Nation candidate for Farah David Farley by putting up billboards and also running television, radio, and online campaigns tying Pauline Hanson to Donald Trump, keep Trump politics out of Australia. There's a few other ones there. One Nation will cut healthcare. Is she still one of us? Find out whohansonis.com. And then it has her, I congratulate Donald Trump. And then it has, it says that One Nation proposing to spend cuts to the public service health. Albury, the centre of one of the centres of the Farrer electorate, has a lot of public servants. And I think this is obviously GetUp. They had a disastrous 2019 federal election campaign with their climate anti-Adani message, alienating Queensland voters. But this definitely is, I think, a smart strategy because Donald Trump is so unpopular in Australia, and they blame, a majority of Australians blame him for the increase in petrol prices. We had Pauline Hanson down here on the Mornington Peninsula on Friday night for an event, and also Saturday morning for a breakfast. So the Farrer federal by-election is on May the 9th. The Victorian State Nepean by-election is on May the 2nd, a week earlier. Now, this is also by The Age by Chip Legrand. It's a state political reporter who claims that a One Nation committee formed to run the party's campaign for the next month's Nepean by-election has been dissolved after two of its members refused to attend a meeting with Sean Black, is the ex-staffer I mentioned before. And it comes after a third member of the committee lodged a formal complaint with Hanson and her executive leadership team against Jason Smarter, party member and aspiring federal candidate, who has vehemently denied allegations he was once heard professing his admiration for Adolf Hitler's economic policies at a One Nation branch meeting. And of course, the mainstream media, they love reporting on a One Nation controversies, infights, campaign finance issues. And in fact, the National Party, they in Farrer, they have run a attack ad about Pauline Hanson's hiring of Sean Black, though they are going to preference One Nation before the Teal Independent Michelle Milthorpe. We have the federal budget coming on May the 12th, and there is a massive campaign for a 25% tax on gas exports. So a independent ACT Senator David Pocock crowdfunded $94,000 to launch a national billboard campaign for the gas tax. And there is a 3-day Senate inquiry. Backbenchers Ed Husick and Jerome Laxall, who you saw in that video before, are pushing for it. So the sales pitch is that it's revenue-based tax would be harder for gas companies to avoid than the profits-based petroleum resource rent tax, raise $17 billion per year, which could be in a sovereign wealth fund. They claim it'll mean more gas available for the domestic market, put downward pressure on household energy prices. Though, of course, such a tax could, it could deter future investment in gas, and also quite upset the nations that we are exporting gas to, such as Japan and South Korea, who we are relying on for our refined fuel. Now, it's interesting that this it's gained a cross section amongst the left and some part of the right. So obviously it has the support of the Greens, but also has the support of One Nation. Well, they don't support the 25% figure. And also Liberal frontbencher Andrew Hastie has expressed support for the gas tax. So Angus Taylor is 100% against it, said it would shut down the gas industry, and if you tax more of something, you get less of it. We have Mark Butler, the Federal Health and NDIS Minister, addressing the National Press Club tomorrow to announce that the proposed cuts or reining in of the future spending, to be more specific, on the National Disability Insurance Scheme / scam, because, well, the fraud, you don't need to look far to find it. The fact that you have almost 90% of NDIS providers unregistered, and you have anyone with a moderate or mild autism getting $100,000 plus NDIS package, that is just obscene. Now, it's going to be quite an anticipated budget, though Jim Chalmers is preparing us for the bad news, of course, blaming the Strait of Hormuz closure and the war in Iran, which has exacerbated our inflation and budget, the federal budget position, but it was already heading, inflation was already heading north, as was debt, as was the deficit before the US and Israeli war against Iran started.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, in Victoria this past week, we've had fire bombings, a machete attack, a car attack at the Supernova Festival. This is the Melbourne crime media montage for the past week, which I should warn you goes for 5 minutes, because that's how much violent crime we've had here.
Hospitality venue has been targeted by arsonists, the latest in a spate of attacks across the city. Live now to Ollie Haig. Ollie, police believe teenagers are being recruited to conduct these fire bombings.
Yeah, that's right, Pete. And this is following a pretty extraordinary warning from police just yesterday about the risk of fire bombings and attempted fire bombings at bars and nightclubs across Melbourne. Now, Bar Bambi in the city became the 7th venue to be hit since Tuesday. Now, it's believed that an unknown group of offenders broke into that bar at about 6 o'clock this morning. They tried to set that venue on fire but were unsuccessful. Police say they located located a jerry can outside. Now, incredibly, as I mentioned before, this is the 7th venue to be hit since Tuesday. Some of the other bars and other venues that have been hit across the week, including the Emerson in South Yarra, as well as the Albion, and included in that as well is Soho in the city. Now, yesterday we know that 2 teenagers were arrested over that Soho arson attack, a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old. But considering so many venues have now been struck or attempted to be struck in as many days, police believe that there could be more offenders out there. So they're asking anyone with any information to come forward. Pete?
Ollie.
He got a knife. He got a knife. He got a knife. No. Oh my days. Yo. He got a fucking machete, bro. That's fucked. This is fucked. That's fucked, bro.
Did we just witness a terrorist attack in Australia? It certainly looks like one, but the media and the government are not discussing it as one. This guy, Awadao, a refugee from South Sudan, deliberately rammed his car into a group of pedestrians. He killed a 20-year-old innocent person, seriously injured another 20-year-old. He apparently drove for more than 120 meters across a footpath. He crossed lanes to hit this group of pedestrians, literally veered across the road to deliberately smash into them, and then drove for another 120 meters along a footpath. They're not releasing anything in terms of ideology or motive, but he was previously on bail for robbing somebody with a machete. And this guy, Awadao, it took almost 2 days for the government to release the name. It took 24 hours to get a photo of the suspect. And it's just weird to me. We see a car ramming attack. We know that overseas, these types of attacks are linked to terrorism. It certainly looks like a terrorist attack. But there's not much discussion of it. The government suppressed his name for 48 hours, suppressed photos of him for 24 hours. And right now, we actually know nothing about it. I've seen nobody talking about this. It certainly looks like Australia just had a terrorist attack, but we're not talking about it as one.
Police are zeroing in on Victoria's most notorious youth crime gang, responsible for more than 4,500 offences, many of them violent. 2 of its members have been arrested in a recent raid in Melbourne's west, and detectives say there's more to come.
Shootings, stabbings, home invasions, murders. Youth gangs have inflicted so much pain on Melbourne families. And now police are targeting the worst youth gang of all.
The gang we have targeted, and we make no apology for this, are responsible for over 4,500 charges being laid.
Police won't name this particular gang, but will say its crew are spread across the northwest, living in Craigieburn, Melton, Tarneet, even outer Melbourne, with at least 41 members aged 17 to 26. 2 have been arrested in the past fortnight as police served a raft of firearms prohibition orders.
It gives us a power of entry, if you like, into that house, and an ability to search that house. We often find knives and other edge weapons. We find drugs.
In Victoria, there are 33 known youth gangs comprising more than 600 members. In the past year, 440 offenders were arrested at least 3 times. 47 of those arrested more than 10 times.
We see 4 youth gang members arrested every day.
In a lot of cases, these youth gangs are also being preyed upon by organised crime groups in the illegal tobacco trade. Police say the youths are then tasked to carry out their dirty work, whether it be firebombings or drive-by shootings.
You wouldn't join a gang if you knew the truth. And what I mean by that is it ends badly.
Jordan Quinn, 7 News.
Further to Madeline Burke's story in the 7 o'clock news just gone to air about this horrendous brawl in Bayside, we have come into possession of a video. Has Russell seen the video yet? No. Wait for this. Wait, don't play it yet. Wait for this. It's a little alarming. It was filmed on the streets of Port Melbourne yesterday. Look at that.
You are joking, aren't you?
It looks like a scene of fighters from Syria, does it not? I'm not describing the identity of they're entirely hooded, but they are leaning out of each side of the car. Yeah. They're through the roof, the sunroof of the car, completely disguised in black. That is the streets of Melbourne.
Yeah,
look at that.
That's footage we've never seen on the streets of Melbourne. I certainly have never seen that.
And are we assuming that is connected with Madeline's story? It is. We're told 100% associated with Madeline's story. We're going to get that up on our socials immediately.
What are they doing?
It looks like a scene from Syria.
Did you keep up with all that? So 7 bars and nightclubs were firebombed in just 5 days. Now, I don't know how much of that is related to the illicit tobacco trade. That's the main motivation for firebombings. I'm not sure what the other motives are. Now, in that Oakley, the machete attack, a teenager was injured. So that was in Eaton Mall on Friday night. They were beset upon by 10 masked men or youths carrying machetes. Now, Oakley is a middle-class, predominantly Greek suburb, and Greeks aren't known for using machetes. It's not part of Nick Giannopoulos' WOG jokes. I think the Greeks, they tend to just slap each other. Remember that book and miniseries, the Slap by Greek author Christos Takis. I know that they don't use machetes. And now it took 24 hours for the accused supernova, a culpable driver, to be named, Awa Du, who is, so the photo was published by 7 News reporter Georgia Bennett Murphy. So sometimes these mainstream media news thoughts, they do a good job. So he's been charged with dangerous driving causing death and culpable driving while on bail. Was a learner driver. It was apparently a rental car. And the man on the right was the man who was killed. There was one other injured and one who was rushed to hospital suffering trauma. So Volkan Aksoy was his name. He was just 20 years old. So young and so sad. Imagine if that was your son, your brother, your friend. A life taken way too soon. It just went to because Supernova's a pop culture festival, like people who are big into those various film and superhero anime series and that sort of thing. You don't think that a car's going to mount the curb and come and kill or injure you. There was a minute's silence on Sunday for Volkan Aksoy. Never forget the victims because he should still be alive. It just fills me with sadness just seeing his image up on the screen there. But thankfully, Awa Dower did not receive bail. He's been remanded in custody. Prosecutors say it will take 16 weeks for a brief of evidence. Now, the segment that I played from 3AW Breakfast about the hooded youths hanging out of a car, that was in Port Melbourne. They hunted down 2 teens and viciously beat him with a sledgehammer. I think we need sledgehammer amnesty bins, because clearly some of these youth gangs have switched from machetes to sledgehammers. And breaking news tonight, a man has been charged with brandishing an imitation firearm outside the Dandenong Plaza, which was pretty terrifying for witnesses because they didn't know the gun was fake. But Jacinta Allen, all she wants to talk about is free public transport and more trains more often, given that the spate of violent crime we've seen over the past week. I don't think many Victorians, well, they can afford petrol again, but I don't think they'll be wanting to go out. Now, with Anzac Day upon us, the Victorian Liberals, they've promised 10 years in prison for war memorial vandals. We do hope that there are none in the lead up to Anzac Day, because under the Andrews Allen government, none of these statue vandals, desecrators have been arrested or charged. It's almost like Victoria Police and the state government don't care, and in fact are happy to see Australia's historical monuments, our war memorials, vandalised and desecrated. That's the only other explanation that I can see. I hope that there are extra patrols around war memorials when it comes to Anzac Day. There's been obviously a online talk about will there be welcome to countries this year at the Shrine of Remembrance service and at various dawn services. And obviously we saw the National Socialist Network, they were members at the time. Obviously it's been dissolved now, the National Socialist Networks. Jacob Hirschnett and Michael Nelson, off the top of my head, they booed the welcome to country. I certainly don't condone booing a welcome to country on a day such as Anzac Day. Maybe a quiet protest such as turning your back or just walking out for that segment there. Obviously, it's different when you're at the footy and there's a welcome to country. That's completely different because, well, booing is part of the crowd behaviour there.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, last week we had Donald Trump taking on Pope Leo because, of course, the Pope advocates police, but Donald Trump, particularly in his old age, cannot stand any criticism, either direct or indirect, at him. Said that the Pope is very liberal, soft on crime. He only got the job because he's an American and I was in the White House, even though Pope Leo is a registered Republican. Now, Donald Trump didn't just offend Catholics with posting this to Truth Social of him as Jesus looking to... Is he trying to heal Jon Stewart there? Jon Stewart definitely thought that it was him there. So thousands of Christians online were absolutely appalled at this blasphemy. Riley Gaines, who of course had to compete against that biological male swimmer Leah Thomas, said God shall not be mocked. And so Trump said that he didn't really like Riley Gaines. And he also had a go at Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni because she defended the Pope. Of course, a Italian Prime Minister, Vatican City is within Rome, and so said that Meloni hasn't helped with the Strait of Hormuz blockade or freeing it, and says they have a lot of oil there. Now, Trump deleted the Truth Social photo, which basically is a concession that he recognized the backlash. But of course, he denied unconvincingly that he thought it was him as Jesus.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and it had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better.
So the prayer is CSAR 25:17, and it reads, and pray with me, please.
The path
of the downed aviator is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of camaraderie and duty, shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother. And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1 when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Yes, Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth quoting the Pulp Fiction Bible. Now, it would have been great, say, if Saturday Night Live actually was able to get Samuel L. Jackson to make a cameo, but he's quite old now. How on earth does that happen? He quotes a fictional Bible verse. Of course, we're used to now Pete Hegseth in invoking God and Christianity when he's talking about all the bombs that have been dropped on Iran. Now, we did have on Friday the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announce that the Strait of Hormuz was open because of the 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. Remember, Iran, they briefly opened the strait over a week ago, but then closed it because Israel was still bombing Lebanon. Iran said that was covered by the ceasefire. The US and Israel claimed that it wasn't. But less than a day after the Strait of Hormuz was opened, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy said the strait was closed due to the continuation of the US naval blockade, which I think the blockade is actually the smartest move that the US has made. Why didn't Trump do this a month ago? I mean, if you look at history, the US naval blockade of Cuba and the Cuban Missile Crisis stopped more Soviet missiles going there. So naval blockades work. So, but then even shortly after they announced that the strait was closed, they fired upon an Indian flag tanker and a French flagged container ship, and they were saying, you already gave us permission to go through, which begs the question, who is actually running Iran? It's because they have multiple different arms of government. There's the Ayatollah and the mullahs, the religious clerics, then there's the civilian government, then there's the speaker, the parliament, and then there is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. So the US escalated by firing on and seizing an Iranian-flagged cargo ship. Now, the current fragile, to put it mildly, US-Iran ceasefire expires on 10 a.m. Thursday morning, Australian Eastern Standard Time, and Trump has escalated his threats against Iran as well, saying that he'll drop more bombs and target their power plants, energy grid again. And now Iran has said that it's not going to show up to the next round of negotiations in Islamabad, Pakistan, but J.D. Vance, the vice president, is still going along with the Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff and Donald Trump's brother-in-law, Jared Kushner, who is now a billionaire. And now we had Donald Trump. He attacks all US allies. Like, Australia is only singled out when he's asked about Australia from an Australian journalist. I don't like some Australians who cheer on Trump whacking Australia. You're supposed to be Australia first, but Trump is whacking heaps of other nations. I mean, we're not special, though. The thing is, we are dependent on the Trump administration and the US Republican-controlled Congress for the AUKUS submarines. I think that I'm coming to the view that even though it might be too late to pull out, we should have gone in hindsight with the Japan nuclear submarines, because Japan has always proved itself reliable. But there is one nation that Trump has said is a great ally, and that is Israel, though he has denied that Israel talked him into the war. And he said the results of October 7 added to my lifelong opinion that Iran could never have a nuclear weapon. I read and watch the fake news pundits and polls in total disbelief. 90% of what they say are lies and made-up stories, and the polls are rigged. Much like the 2020 presidential election was rigged, just like the results in Venezuela, which the media doesn't like talking about. The results in Iran will be amazing, and if Iran's new leaders' regime change is smart, Iran can have a great and prosperous future. President Donald J. Trump. Now, there is one CNN poll which Donald Trump likes, and that is the CNN poll that says 100% of Trump supporters support Donald Trump. That is remaining Trump supporters. So likes the polls that say how well he's doing. You know, it was funny, all of the Trump cultists were saying, oh, how great Trump opened the strait again, and then it was closed. Oh, so they had egg on their face. Now, he launched another Truth Social attack on Tucker, Candace, and Megyn Kelly. Tucker Carlson's son, Buckley, who's named after his Uncle Buck, who Tucker interviewed a couple of months back on his channel. So he's left his role as J.D. Vance Deputy Press Secretary. So who knows what... I'm not optimistic about I haven't been for a while optimistic about a everlasting ceasefire or peace agreement, whatever you want to call it. Trump, in fact, is thinking about unlocking more Iranian funds than Obama did in what Trump called his terrible nuclear deal. So Trump, he will try and spin, even if it's a total capitulation, that as a win, even though the regime is still in place. But the other thing is, we don't know. We don't know if the strait will, if there is another agreement, will it remain open? Because we don't know who's really running Iran. Maybe because the US and Israel killed so many people that there's lots of confusion about who's filling up the vacuum. It was interesting that, did you see there was that Israeli soldier who desecrated a statue of Jesus in southern Lebanon, and even Benjamin Netanyahu condemned it, saying there's going to be a criminal investigation, because I think Benjamin Netanyahu realizes that by a Israeli soldier smashing a statue of Jesus, so shortly after Easter, we just had Orthodox Easter, will feed into anti-Semitic views about the Jews and Jesus.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
And that's the end of WilmsFront Snapshot news program for this week. Now, going forward, because I am a lot more busier on Mondays than I have been in the past, but I'm less busy on Tuesdays now. So I may switch to Tuesdays permanently. So watch this space. I check my social medias, my Telegram, Facebook, X, and Gab. That's where, and Substack. That's where I post alerts for when new episodes are coming out. And that is where you can support the Unshackled and Unshackled Productions. So I put the unshackled.substack.com/subscribe link in the live chat. So Clarkey wants to support, but did you sign up on the Unshackled .net/membership for a membership or a donation here? Now, as you know, I'm a fortnightly contributor to Reality Check Radio, Wilms Report, breakfast program with Paul Brennan every Tuesday morning. They've launched an Australian newsletter of their popular morning RCR Bites emails. So you can sign up at biteme.news. Sign up to get your Australian fix of news every morning. They have expanded into Australia with the signing of their first Australian presenter, Lisa Jane Spencer. She was at the Pauline Hanson event in Rosebud. I couldn't get a ticket because, well, you snooze, you lose. But if I went there, it would have been hard to get to Pauline because Avi Yemeni and Rukshan Fernando were hogging a lot of the limelight, and they had their exclusive 45-minute interview with Pauline Hanson, which looked a bit lame in parts because, of course, they spend too much time talking about how Pauline Hanson's not racist and making jokes, oh, would you deport me, and Rukshan, and that sort of stuff is really cringy in my opinion. I much prefer Joanna Howe, a pro-life activist, her interviews with Pauline Hanson. She had an interesting debate with the abortion abolitionists who believe that she's too moderate, trying to champion these late-term abortion bills to keep babies alive who survive abortions, which is, it's quite bizarre if you think that Joanna Howe is not pro-life enough. I mean, she came up with the term for pro-abortion female MPs, the Baby Killers Club. I mean, she's pretty. She is very, as I would say, it's very. A conviction runs deep on the pro-life issue. And now I've got new reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft that are up, including his analysis of the Trump crossing the Iran Rubicon, and also his report on the Queensland government banning pro-Palestine slogans. They arrested some more people, Queensland police, on the weekend for uttering the banned phrases. Thank you so much again for joining me on this Tuesday evening. I will see you again for another WilmsFront Snapshot News show, and I hope to lock in a interview program very soon. I'm just so busy with so many things, but good things. So I'm very excited about doing a lot behind the scenes on various things at the moment, which I'm very much enjoying. But I will see you all again very soon. So please stay safe, everybody. Stay optimistic. Don't be the doom scroller. Just try to live our best lives and look out for each other. Good night.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting theunshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.